Hey everyone, I was wishing to share something that I already shared about in a few groups, but now it feels like the time has come really to come out with the exact project and also the abilities to help if you want really to step into what I feel will be quite a tremendous adventure. I feel throughout what we grab from the history of humanity in specific times, whether it is at the scale of a family, at the scale of a community, at the scale of a nation, in peculiar moments and portals in the unfoldment of history, specific moments have induced specific assemblies, have induced this idea of gathering of the sages. The sages in our acceptation here won't be around people who know, who have any kind of wisdom or knowledge from the books, but people that actually are deeply alive and are deeply awakening or even awakened to both the core notes of humanity and the note of the earth. That beings that when you feel into what they transmit, you feel in contact actually with an expression of the earth itself and someone that has somehow the position to speak, to be a spokesperson for humanity itself. I've been deeply inspired by those beings all along my life. And I feel during this kind of multi-layered, interconnected crisis we're entering, going from the biosphere to economics to all, but basically all the parts of the human life, I feel it's important to have a new reference point. Reference point that is not anchored neither in the cold, personal, temporal power of the politics as we know them. Reference point that is not anchored in a kind of strategy or planning or very locked in the vision realms. A reference point that is actually something that touch something in us and that attune us to the vibration of what could be the vibration of a birthing civilization. And that will really be an expression of the symbiosis we can have on the material plane with the rest of the biosphere and innerly with the human family. It's something that will really express a soul culture that is an expression of creativity, an expression of, yeah, creative wisdom, really changing the shape of the earth and life itself as can be experienced by human family. From how do we welcome life to how do we welcome death? From how do we educate to how do we relate to the unfoldment of our souls as broader and broader and broader portion of one life, as an expression of power that is sourced within, that is this kind of beautiful kind of intensity and density and electricity of what's alive in earth that is actually not us, but rather greater and greater sphere of being that are able to express through us, may it be a community, the soul of a nation, earth itself, or even larger spheres for a few beings in incarnation now. The dream is then to have Earth in transition celebrated, to have more than 2 days dedicated to the shift of civilization, the radicality it is essentially, because it is essentially radical and we've not really actually entered the core of this radicality. But we can have this kind of freshman bonds as a mast, as something that is the vibration of the other side of the portal to be already vibrated and have ourselves attuned to it. Earth in transition would be right in the solstice portal of June 24. Would begin on the 20th with a global meditation. That means that how many I don't know how many souls would be willing to gather on this, but I feel around the fabric of space and time, specific focus within the human consciousness can induce maybe 1 to 3 degrees of change in that particular moment. But as time goes on, a few degrees in the start can make really a world of difference in a few decades. I think civilization rely on us operating software that is a kind of mythology that relies on a few basic assumptions on what are we? Why are we here? Where do we go towards? And I don't think reason or vision can answer that. But I feel consciousness can wrap something around the transmission of life. And I want to invite those beings that I feel have this transmission alive in them together. So for this global meditation would be those beings together and as many souls willing to support the process. I feel within the human family, it would somehow be kind of birth of a core that is resonant to the deeper purpose of this planet rather than self or community or national interests. Something that is acknowledging the unknown in front of us and our ability to be responsive to life rather than any kind of planification, programming strategy, however ecological or apparently wise it may be. I feel our plasticity and our agility, the one that is actually our soul's agility, is the biggest gift we can have to go through this portal of the coming decade. So this global meditation would really be about, there is this little thing here, tuning into Earth, humanity, universe, the world soul, gathering together. And then there will be 2 other days, the 21st and the 22nd. During these 2 days, I would love to invite beings that are able, like I said, to transmit briefly, 20 minutes, 25 minutes maybe, at some kind of lightning, where we grab the words and it feels really interesting, but we will have the replays maybe to fill into each specific ideas that are carried forward. But the ideas are like a skin for something much deeper, much more powerful, which is a transmission of life, which is the touching of a response point in us. So the various areas that could be there would be transition of governance. Political power can't remain the same in front of what we are traversing, because also of what it has been in the past and what it hasn't been able to feel into, like in kind of naked humanity, like in the naked vulnerability, in the naked transparency, in the naked responsibility. I say naked as pure, not pure in terms of moral concepts, but something that is devoid of self of particular interests, but is more focused in what are the needs of the earth. What do we feel is the way forward if we would be the earth, and if we tune into the life of the earth as much as we can. Transition of metaphysics. Humanity, for me, is a mighty scientist. I don't believe we are still trapped in the kind of iron cage of a positive science that would tell us what to believe and what not to believe. We have been able to create tools to look at the other end of the universe, to take pictures of the invisible, like black holes, to begin to measure or have like a few contacts with dark energy, dark matter, to begin to have those bridges between relativity and quantum physics, to have an understanding of the biosphere and the climate and the intelligence of, for example, the plant kingdom that go towards, there is a sentiency of this planet. So science to me, actually in now, is opening the human psyche to realms of wisdom and unfolding as the one life that is quite unbelievable. Youth is a true leader. Those souls that are coming into now are, for me, so inspiring. Their degree of maturity, of wisdom, of balance between spirit and matter, masculine and feminine. I feel a huge amount of maturity and courage in these generations coming. And I feel they need to have a huge role to play, and to be this role needs to be recognized and will be recognized in that transition, such as also turning towards guest of honors and the various possibilities of transmission and areas of transmission. I feel the native people, the indigenous tribe all over the world that have kept alive a transmission of what it is to be human and the cell of the earth at the same time, in their innate wisdom, in their posture towards the biosphere, in all the mysteries, and also in the really tangible and practical ways of their culture. They have kept a deep and important secret alive in that tradition, and this needs to be shared again in this peculiar period of time. Spirituality that is calcified in a form also will be intensely shook by what we are traversing. Yet there is a kind of thread from the past through the present towards the future of what I'll call here spiritual landscapes. And I would love to invite beings that have this kind of ability to unzoom and let us feel about what is the essential knot of Earth if it was a spiritual school. What are the constants? What can we grab and understand in a few words or story, but essentially in a kind of invisible transmission of what's this planet all about? What's our and her destiny as we are one? And to not remain somehow in a kind of revelation that really is ascending, but have difficulty to descend, like pieces is over, and the realm of the dream is over. The realm of manifesting it begins now. And I feel we have everything, including the crisis, to be able to see it and see blossoming a new civilization. And it would be a pleasure to gather beings that are able to send a few souvenirs of the future. Like, Rob Hopkins, for example, having Mr. Kite, and they journey together in 20 years and they come back with photographs and sounds and souvenir of this distant civilization we are beginning to build now. So yes, there is, I feel, in Northern Transition, this idea of spirituality has an important, at least half of the spiritual transmission, it could be revelation, and half would be application. Earth is Eden, and this coming civilization would be able, I feel, to represent a good part of the divinity there is in matter, in the now. There are beings that have been sensing this for years, decades, many lifetimes. And I would love some of them to be our guests of honor. And I feel when the realm of this transition, the deepest core of the deep ecology, spiritual ecology, transition movement, and the spiritual movement of awakening as the one life, if they both meet together and also meet the art and especially the music. I feel music is at the same time an insight and the fuel to realize and to actually implement this insight in our lives. So I feel music is a key component, the third pillar of Earth in Transition. And not only music, but also like inspired artists that I feel are a bridge between their land and their native tradition and the global culture. But also like they would be invited to host to hold point for physical location for Earth in Transition. So for example, in Nice, I'm getting in touch with beautiful electronic artists to come into the project, land project here and play from them. And so we would be open to have this kind of more than 50, 60 hours of live broad stream, but to live it in flesh together and have their gig and not only broadcasted online, but also to be lived. And I hope like other artists will be on specific land projects or symbolical places or historical places or geological curiosity of their land and transmit from them and open this place, not only for their concert, but also for the whole experience of Earth in Transition. And to remain on the arts, a beautiful idea also that come from Pietro Zucchetti, a dear friend to me and a great permaculture and teacher that goes really to the roots of what is essentially permaculture or a culture of permanence, maybe one of the seeds of the coming civilization. And say, why don't you take also the opportunity to have a global land art performance during the 3 days? And if we could begin really not wait until even the 23rd of June, but during this event to begin to crown the earth with our love and creativity and art. Humanity is a tremendous scientist and artist. And I feel but somehow we are entering a portal where science, spirituality, ecology, and art are one same thing. And I hope Earth in Transition will lead us to this realization. It will be prepared. We won't go straight into June, but we will slightly from the previous solstice of December, we will slightly have kind of teasing and attuning and bringing on more bandwidth. And I feel there are a few also movies or documentaries that can help us feel into the sentiency of this planet, the beauty of those times, and the promises of beings awakening to this knot of symbiosis in civilization. So that will be Home, A Quest for Meaning tomorrow, but that's only a few milestones and there will be much more. So basically, this is the invitation. Invitation to feel together as a group into the evolution that is beginning to really defragment the earth and initiate humanity. So this was my sharing around what will be Earth in Transition. And that is also a will to open to co-creation. And there are already beautiful beings that are in the boat of preparing this. Earth in Transition is also part of a triplicity. I won't get into this video that much, but Soul of Earth with beloved brother Jonathan, and there is also Soul Nation that will be a continuation of Earth in Transition and how it lands into land projects that are essentially the vessel for those seeds to really manifest and harbor communities of beings that will be vibrating to this note. But to come back to Earth in Transition, there is quite a lot of dance work, and I want this also to demonstrate that we can have all the inspiration for this kind of big vision, but we can land it with as much precision, beauty, care, yeah, for manifesting. That is the mark of all the big enterprise, like in with the capital E, a kind of project with a capital P, something that is actually a projection of our group soul into the 3D, because there is a will that it can be somehow a real touch of application and somehow coming out of the soul principle in the world, so that the soul would be the key ingredient of the next civilization. If you resonate to this, don't hesitate to get in touch. Deep love until then.